Hey guys, what's going on? It's Xenox Gamer here, and in this video I want to talk about cooldowns. So I want to go in depth with the DPS side of cooldowns and in the defensive side, with retrospect to the fact that it's talking about a DPS. We're not tanking or anything like that in this one, it's just talking about your offensive and your defensive cooldowns as a DPS class. And a lot of this stuff you can apply to other classes, but I'm going to be going over the DeathKnight and all their cooldowns. So we'll start it off with the offensive side of it and the very easy one, which is Pillar of Frost. So costs a Frost Wound, it's on a minute cooldown, and it increases your strength by 20%. So it's a very big cooldown. In terms of the gain, it's on a very low cooldown, so for a minute you're actually getting quite a bit. And it's our main cooldown, so keeping this up as much as we possibly can, or in times where we gain a lot of benefit, like Heroism, Bloodlust, Time Warp, whatever, or if a boss is taking extra damage for whatever reason in the fight, that's a good time to use this. Next, for me anyway, would be trinkets. Now, these are, I mean, any class can have a trinket, a non-use trinket this way, and mine happens to give me 4,232 strength for 20 seconds, and it's on a 2-minute cooldown. So this I decided to macro in with my passive because I'm an orc. I gain 4,500 more attack power, so every 2 minutes I'm going to be using this and my passive together. And the reason why you want to do a lot of things like that is stacking cooldowns is very beneficial. You get a lot of damage, you get the most out of them. If you use them at the beginning of a fight, they're going to be up, you know, a lot faster than if you waited, you know, the first 2 minutes in or something like that. And this way it's just less buttons to press. If I macro it that way, it's just a lot easier. But keep in mind that you want to be using these as much as you possibly can and utilizing them when it's best to do so. Again, when Bloodlust or whatever is popped, or a boss is taking extra damage for whatever reason. Now, the other big one, which is probably the most important one, is Empowering Rune Weapon. Now, this does generate runic power, so typically you'd want to use it when you're not runic power capped, because you're just going to be wasting it, because that extra 25 runic power is actually very nice. It's an extra Frost Strike, and then a little bit more and you gain an extra Frost Strike as well. So that's the small portion of it, but the big portion is the fact that it activates all your runes again. So typically how you'd want to use this is making sure that as many of your runes are on cooldown as you possibly can get them, and you're not runic power capped. So basically you'd blow all your cooldowns as much as you can. So let's say in a fight you'd start off like Pillars Frost, Trinket, passive, you'd summon your Ghoul as well because it's a DPS cooldown, and then you'd go through all your runes as you possibly can. So the main thing, don't worry about like a Frost rune or whatever being on cooldown, but you want to blow as many runes as you possibly can, spend as much RP as you can, and then use your Empowering Rune Weapon. Now typically, because it is a 5-minute cooldown, if you use it at the start of the fight, if the fight is longer than 5 minutes, you'll be able to use it again. And I like to usually save it for Heroism or something like that, because you're going to probably have Pillars of Frost up for the most part, so using this cooldown, spending all your runes, and then using this again and being able to get like 4 obliterates off really quickly is a huge DPS increase. And stacking as many cooldowns as you possibly can is very good, especially when you can refresh the runes and go through your rotation as if nothing ever happened with all your bonuses. So that's kind of how I take it and how I do that, and so far it's been working out very well. Stacking cooldowns is very good because you're getting a huge benefit out of everything. You're doing a lot more damage that way, and they're coming off cooldown a lot faster. So this kind of brings us into the defensive side, but this is probably one of the most important cooldowns I feel in terms of a defensive benefit with a slight offensive gain, and that's Anti-Magic Shell. And the reason why is because when glyphed, this actually absorbs a lot of damage. It is spell damage, so it's not physical, but it's 50% of your maximum health, which is quite a bit. And it's on a 45-second cooldown, so it doesn't have that long of a cooldown. It lasts for 5 seconds, and when you time it so that you are absorbing that magic damage, it does generate runic power for you, so it is technically a DPS gain. It just means more Frost Strikes and that sort of thing. So this one is very important, and so far, just even going into the first 2 bosses on normal mode in Mogashan Vaults, there's a lot of applications for this. The blue cobalt puddles, the little mine spike things, the blue things on the ground, you can actually pop one of them with this. You can negate an overload that you weren't expecting from one of the other guardians, something like that. On the second boss, it helps tremendously because there's so much AoE damage going on that it's very good to use this as much as you can to help mitigate that damage. It's very good for you to stay alive because you do more damage, and it's good for your healers because they can save mana by not healing you as much as they normally would. So that brings us into Anti-Magic Zone. Now this is a lot longer of a cooldown, so it is 2 minutes, but for the most part it's not too bad lengthwise. Now this reduces spell damage done to a party, so it is a zone. It is a barrier that way, and you can stack in it. It reduces it by 75%, but it has a cap on it, so it absorbs at least 136,800 spell damage, and after that it basically pops. It lasts for 10 seconds, so that's very nice. But in the second boss anyway, in Mogashan Vaults, you actually have a lot of applications for this because it's a lot of AoE damage, and even though it's a little bit of mitigation, it still helps out the raid overall. Now you can take something like Purgatory as well to help save yourself, but this is more of a selfish talent that way because you're only temporarily not dying and you have to get the heals that way. This you'll probably end up mitigating a lot more damage and that sort of thing, but Purgatory is an option for a DPS class as well. Realistically, these would be the only 2 that I go for. Lichborn, there's not really any time where you'd ever really need that unless you want to heal yourself with Death Coil, but there's better options there. So from there we start getting into Icebound Fortitude, and this is a 3-minute cooldown. You can glyph this, but I like to keep it the way it is. It costs 20 runic power, so you are losing a little bit of DPS to cast that, but you're reducing all your damage taken by 20% for 12 seconds, so that's a pretty big deal. So using this when there's a lot of damage going on and that sort of thing, at least reducing it by 20% is just going to help you stay alive more. It's going to make sure your healers aren't wasting as much mana, and ultimately that's a good thing. Now Raise Dead and Death Pact are kind of a combo. Raise Dead by itself is a DPS cooldown. It does add DPS to you, which is very nice, but Death Pact is very good for defensive purposes because it is such a huge heal. It doesn't kill your ghoul, which is a good thing. I have it glyphed here, so it's actually very nice, and out of all these talents, this is probably one of the better ones that way. It only suffers 50% of the damage, so it's a nice cooldown because they line up perfectly, so they're both on 2 minutes. You get a big heal, you get an extra damage boost that way, and that's going to really help your healers. It's almost like a mini lay on hands because of how big of the heal is. So from that, those are pretty much the cooldowns for the most part that you're going to be using. I just wanted to kind of emphasize the importance of defensive cooldowns and keeping yourself alive and mitigating as much damage as you possibly can as a DPS class, because that's actually very important, and overall it's going to make you a better player because you're going to be taking less damage, which means that you are staying alive a lot longer, you're not dying for the most part, and you're able to do as much damage as you possibly can. And that's the importance of a DPS class. So I just wanted to touch on that and kind of go over this. I know most people probably already know what these do and how to use them, and a lot of people are probably actually better at playing a DeathKnight than I am, which is completely fine, but I wanted to make this to kind of talk about this stuff, and hopefully at least someone learned something from this. And other than that, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you like it, consider liking. If you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. But overall, if you just watch the video, thank you very much for supporting me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.